In a recent development, a New York courtroom just made a decision that could change everything in the Gilgo Beach murder case. Rex Heuermann, the man accused of being the Gilgo Beach serial killer, will face all 7 murder charges in a single trial. And for the first time, advanced DNA evidence, extracted from degraded samples, will be allowed against him. This ruling could make or break the prosecution's case, and it may finally bring answers to one of America's most haunting mysteries. But what does this ruling really mean? How will it shape the trial? And could it be the turning point that decides whether Rex Heuermann is convicted or walks free? Welcome back to Prison Stories. In this episode, we break down the judge's decision, the role of DNA evidence, and what lies ahead for one of America's most chilling cases. The Gilgo Beach murders first came to light in December 2010, when police searching for a missing woman, Shannon Gilbert, uncovered the remains of 4 other women along a remote stretch of Ocean Parkway on Long Island. Over the next few months, the search widened, and more remains were found, eventually tying at least 11 victims to the same area between 1996 and 2011. For over a decade, the case went cold. Then in July 2023, investigators arrested 59-year-old Rex Heuermann, a New York City architect living just miles away from the beach. He was charged with the murders of 3 of the so-called Gilgo for Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello, with a 4th charge added months later for Maureen Brainerd Barnes. By the end of 2024, prosecutors had connected him to 3 more victims, bringing the total to 7 murder charges. Heuermann has pleaded not guilty, and his defense team has pushed back aggressively, questioning the reliability of forensic evidence and trying to fracture the state's case. And that's what makes this latest ruling so significant. Just weeks ago, on September 3rd, 2025, Judge Timothy Motze made a pivotal decision. He ruled that prosecutors may use advanced DNA evidence in the Gilgo Beach trial. This wasn't ordinary DNA. The method involved whole genome sequencing on highly degraded hair fragments, samples that in many cases lacked roots or were decades old. Prosecutors argued these newer techniques are crucial to link Heuermann to the victims. The defense fought hard against this, arguing that the forensic lab wasn't properly licensed in New York and that the statistical methods overstated the certainty of matches. But in his 29-page ruling, Judge Motze dismissed those arguments and allowed the evidence to stand. Why does this matter? Because much of the case against Rex Heuermann rests on forensic evidence. Investigators have already matched a male hair recovered from burlap used to wrap one victim to DNA taken from a discarded pizza crust Heuermann threw out in Manhattan. A female hair found on another victim was linked through mitochondrial DNA to his wife, supporting the theory that she was out of town when the murders happened. But her DNA was transferred through the household. Other degraded hair fragments tied to victims were analyzed using this new sequencing technology, which prosecutors argue points back to Heuermann with a high degree of certainty. Without this DNA, the case would rely heavily on cell phone records, internet searches, and circumstantial evidence. With it, prosecutors believe they have a direct biological link connecting Heuermann to the victims, something a jury is far less likely to dismiss. But the DNA decision was only part of the courtroom battle. With 7 murder charges spread across multiple indictments, the defense hoped to split the case apart, giving them a chance to attack each charge individually. The judge, however, had a very different idea. On September 23rd, 2025, Judge Motze ruled that all 7 murder charges against Rex Heuermann will be combined into one trial. This was a major setback for the defense, who had pushed to separate the cases, arguing that trying them together would unfairly prejudice a jury. Prosecutors countered that the crimes share clear similarities. The victims were all women working the sex trade. Their remains are found along the same stretch of Gilgo Beach, and forensic and digital evidence overlaps. The judge agreed, saying a joint trial would not only save time and resources, but also give a jury the full scope of the alleged pattern of killings. For Heuermann, this means facing the weight of all 7 charges at once. Instead of being able to chip away at the state's case piece by piece, the jury will hear the story as a whole. The DNA, the phone records, the digital searches, and the victim's connections all presented together. With both the DNA evidence and the one trial ruling locked in, the balance of this case has shifted heavily toward the prosecution. For the first time, they'll be able to present the murders not as isolated incidents, but as part of a single chilling pattern. 7 women. Similar circumstances, 1 suspect. Jurors will hear that story in full, and that cumulative effect could be devastating for the defense. The DNA evidence in particular now looms large. Prosecutors plan to show how Heuermann's discarded pizza crust led to a genetic match with hair recovered from a victim's burlap wrapping, and how other degraded hair fragments tie back to him through advanced sequencing. If jurors accept that science, it gives the state its most direct biological link to the killings. Without it, the case leans heavily on circumstantial evidence like phone records and internet searches. The defense, meanwhile, is expected to fight back hard. They've already attacked the credibility of the forensic lab and the statistical models used, and they're likely to bring their own experts to cast doubt on whether these DNA matches can really be trusted. They may also revisit the question of severance later, arguing that hearing all 7 charges together could unfairly prejudice a jury. For now, the next milestone is set for January 13th, 2026, when pretrial motions and discovery deadlines come due. No firm trial date has been set, but when it does begin, it will be a massive, complex proceeding, with over 100 witnesses and reams of forensic and digital evidence expected to be presented. And the outcome may well hinge on how 12 jurors view that cutting-edge DNA evidence. We'll be following this case every step of the way. Do you think combining all 7 charges makes conviction more likely, or could it backfire on the prosecution? Let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching Prison Stories. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update.